In this presentation, we'll see the integration of Google Chronicle backstory. So the integration can be found under settings, integrations, and servers and services. And you can search by the keyword. So I think the first one that pops up here is Google Chronicle backstory. So this is the integration, and if you hover on this show commands and click on this, you will view the list of commands that are exposed by virtue of this integration, right? So you have the integration name, logo, and a short description. And against each command, you have a short description of what this does. So the domain command will check the reputation of the domain. Similarly, GCB assets will get you a list of all assets which were accessed with the input, so and so forth. So you can actually take a look at each of these description. And on the right hand side is the ability to actually add an instance of Chronicle here. So what you see here is I have added 2 instances, or basically created 2 instances, but I'm connected to the same Google Chronicle platform, right? So these can be 2 different platforms, or these can be similar ones, and you can add as many instances as you want. Some of the customers might have 2 instances for different purposes, or some of the customers might want to have different instances for the same platform, just like I have done it, for the simple purpose that they want to actually go and have an instance, have a unique instance per the incident type, or one instance for IOC domain matches and another instance for assets with alerts. So the reason you have so much of flexibility is the fact that because the platform is very modular, extremely modular, and we really love to give customers a chance to customize this however they want. So with Google Chronicle platform, customers can have any number of instances integrated or can create based on their preferences. So let's take a look at the adding an instance. So adding an instance is pretty straightforward. So you click on this, customers will have to, they will actually get a default name which can be changed, and it's a mandatory field as you see it. So this can be changed to anything. You will have to mention the user service account JSON. So this is a JSON output which will actually go in here. And then you have certain optional settings that customers, again, based on their preferences, and the teams, depending on their preferences, they can actually change this. And this can be changed on an ad hoc basis, but based on the best practice, this is just one-time configuration. So the first one says first fetch time interval, the time range to consider for the initial data fetch. So this will be typically in days or months or year. And so as you see here, it's by default 3 days. And similarly, how many incidents to fetch each time. You can actually increase or decrease these numbers based on the preferences. Similarly, you have some of the other options. I'll just read those through. So select the severity of asset alerts to be filtered for fetch incidents. Available options are high, medium, low. So for each of the asset fetch incidents, you have an option to actually configure whether you want a high, medium, low, or unspecified type of severity of alerts that needs to be fetched. So this acts like a filter, if you will. So if you don't want all the alerts to be fetched outright, you can just select, okay, I just want a high severity. Similarly, you can have comma separated values based on the categories, and this is very powerful because I can have a specific unique instance per Google Chronicle category. So that will act as a very powerful way of really segregating or getting a very specific set of alerts from Chronicle. So these are all the very first thing that customers will go through and will have to really decide upon and actually configure it. And these are all like one-time configuration, but there's nothing that's stopping customers from changing it. So the next one is, again, comma separated categories, unwanted, virus totally error rule match, indicators belong to these categories, so it becomes suspicious. Similarly, you have other optional configurations. So they can select values, again, depending on for each of these specific option, they can actually make a selection right here. And as you see, this one is actually important one. So backstory alert type. So there are 2 types of alerts from Google Chronicle. One is IOC domain matches. The second is assets with alerts. So you can actually make only one selection, as you see. And that's the reason I have like 2 of these instances created. The first one I have selected IOC domain match. The second one I have selected assets with alerts. And then you have option to click this, which will fetch those incidents. But you can always have an integration which need not have fetch operation enabled, meaning you may not want to get real-time alerts or periodic fetch operation from Google Chronicle if you don't want to do so. So you can always have an integration enabled, but without fetch incidents option enabled. So this is not a mandatory field, but most of the customers would want to, in any situation, pull specific alerts from Google Chronicle. And then we also have an option here to tag an incident type. So if you see, I have actually 2 incident types created in my demo system. One is GCB asset match, which will tag to or relate to the assets with alerts. And the second one is GCP domain match, which will correspond to IOC domain matches. And then we have certain other options, which are some of the advanced capabilities. You can test this integration and show that this works. So you can test this integration. And similarly, you can actually take a look at this configuration as well. So as you see, I haven't selected much of the other optional parameters, but I have turned the fetch operation on. I'm trusting any certificate, of course, not secure, but I've turned it on. And on the incident type, I have actually selected asset alert. And similarly, here I have chosen assets with alerts, right? So that's pretty much, and this is again, a one-time activity, and most of the customers will be aware of what suits them the best, but the platform doesn't stop them from getting their preferences. So once this is done, the first thing we would actually want to do, and again, this is basically a persona in the SOC who is involved in forensics. So if you see on the bottom screen, you have a built-in CLI. So you have, you can run this and have a domain, let's say google.com, and then you can actually get using Google Chronicle backstory. Run these commands to see what the value you get it. So this is where Google Chronicle says that there's no threat intel actually found. Similarly, we can actually go ahead and look at other fields, and artifact value could be a good artifact value could be, let's take the example of this. So I'm just trying to run these commands just to show, and you can have these optional parameters as well. So in the interest of time, I'm just going with whatever is mandatory. So no entries found. So most of the times what you could do is you can have a preset range, and the maximum you can set is 30 days. So let's see if it brings, oh wow. So there are no assets related to artifacts found with this domain. So let's similarly look at others. So GCB, IOC details, artifact value. So you get all the IOC details. As you see here, the category says APT activity, which is pretty serious. And using this category, you can actually perform so many other actions. So let's go and take a look at list alerts. And I think this is the most interesting one, because you will get all the alerts that have occurred in the past 30 days. So as you see here, you get the alerts, asset details, alert names, first seen, last seen, severities. And if you click on this view full table in a new tab, you actually get to view all the information on this page, right? So you have pretty much the source information, severity, last seen, first seen, alert name, pretty much all the details. And all of these have occurred in the past 30 days, in the last 30 days, as you see in the query, right? And similarly, the last command is list IOCs. And so the past 30 days, so those were the alerts. And now I'm actually listing all the indicators of compromise seen in the last 30 days. So there you go. And I think this is very valuable information for any analyst who wants to actually ad hoc basis see. So you have all the domain names, categories, source, confidence, severity, IOC, first seen, last seen, and pretty much all the information coming in here. And lastly, I think there's an IP reputation command as well. So let's see, using, you have, there you go. Okay, wow. So you get all the information related to this IP. So you have a domain hosted on that IP. So you have a block class. So the category is blocked. Confidence is very high. So it's pretty serious. So you get all the information from the CLI. Automation and orchestration capability. What I have actually configured is I've created a playbook. So a playbook is nothing but a task-based workflow. So what this playbook is using is making use of all these commands, right? And as well as integration with other platforms, which is if you find a domain match coming in from Chronicle, what from a response perspective can the analyst do? So what it does, let's just go ahead and take a look at it, right? So the first one is it's performing a check in autofocus. So just to make sure that this is indeed domain, this domain is really bad. So it says pandb malware. So it's also notifying the SOC lead, actually notify as well as assign this incident to a SOC lead. So this is happening automatically in a sequential manner. But these two tasks are happening parallelly, as you see. So you're also getting all the who is information for this specific domain. So as we see, we get pretty much most of the metadata level details. You also get the registrar. And with this registrar, you can actually do many more things. If you want to have a whitelist, you can actually go check that registrar value with a whitelist just to see if there is any compromised or whitelisted well-known registrars are actually found. So then there's a condition statement which checks whether the domain is benign, which is not. So this is not a good domain. So this is certainly a bad domain. So once a bad domain is found and confirmed, what do you do actually next? So you're actually notifying the network team. So there's so this playbook specifically sends an email to the analyst, the network team, and the network team actually passes a username and a tag name, and that gets applied on the firewall. So this is very powerful because from Chronicle, you're getting the domain information, device information, and if there is a way we could actually fetch the user ID information from the network team and the tag name, we can actually apply a tag for the user uh, who was accessing from the specific asset to a malicious domain. So you're also doing performing a domain reputation check on backstory. We're also getting all the IOC details, so APT activity as we saw on the command line as well. So all this information is captured. You're also trying to figure out if there are any other assets actually communicating with this malicious domain. But in this case, as you see, there are not many. There's no much information, but there are cases where there are information. So, and then you'll notify the analyst for a final review, and then you get this PDF document, which is an investigation summary report generated automatically, which could be circulated to the different teams using any one of the integrations. You can send it by email, Slack it, or any other communication tools, and then you can actually close this investigation. So it's a very simple playbook. So what it's doing is it's getting a domain match from Google Chronicle. It's cross-checking with other threat intel platforms whether this domain is indeed bad. It's also assigning this incident automatically to an analyst, getting the who is information, performing a final check whether the domain is good or bad. If it is bad, it's going to the network team, getting the user ID and tag information. It's applying the tag on the firewall. It's also blocking the domain, so you could actually block the domain as well. So I'll add another important task here, just to block the domain in the firewall, along with enforcing a policy on the specific user. And then you're also getting all the asset information. And if there is a match found in this asset, you can actually do many more things in these workflows. And then you're getting the IOC details, performing a final review, getting an investigation summary report, and emailing it. And all the response action of this playbook can be seen on the war room. So, and in the war room, you can actually take a lot of response action. You can mark the specific entry as an evidence note, tag it, and pretty much all the day-to-day activities that they would want to do, because now that they have actually got the information. And this screen, you get all the incident information. So it's investigation data, notes, evidences, and here is the case details. This is where it shows that it came in from Google Chronicle, and then you have the summary information right here. And then you have related incidents page, which is very interesting because you can actually see if there is any related incidents that were actually. So if you see here, these are the two incidents, and there are two buttons, linked and duplicate. So if you can, so it's really depending on the analyst, if they want to actually, if they find there is anything common in these two incidents, they can just say duplicate. If they think that there's something, there's a relationship between these two incidents, they can just mark it as a link. So it's just a way to mark and identify the number of related incidents. You can also set a date time range here and pretty much do all those things. Similarly, here in the canvas section, that's it's just an indicators to incidents match. So it's a visual correlation, and it just tells you a complete story of an incident investigation. So once you got a domain match, what are the capabilities that the platform offers? And yes, you can actually export this playbook. If you click on here, it exports as PNG format. So it's very easy for analysts to download this playbook as a image, and they can actually share it with their team. So that's another interesting capability.